Danful offers unparalleled curated Danful offers unparalleled curated and bespoke tours across Africa for travelers seeking genuine cultural experiences, enriched with magnificent sights, sounds, and flavors. Danful offers unparalleled curated and bespoke tours. Danful offers unparalleled curated and bespoke tours across Africa for travelers seeking genuine cultural experiences, enriched with magnificent sights, sounds, and flavors found on the continent. Each trip is reliably curated to ensure visitors are gifted with an immersive and authentic adventure. Whether you find yourself strolling along the charming white sand beaches of Sierra Leone, feasting on the mouth-watering delicious foods in Senegal, observing or partaking in various aspects of the Isheshi traditional system Ifa native to Yoruba land, Nigeria, with Danful, you will rediscover a fulfilling sense of kinship to the true heart of the motherland, her communities. Our core values focus on integrity, quality, safety, and sustainability. We are uniquely committed to assisting with the advancement of African infrastructure and promoting African businesses, so both travelers and the communities they visit receive beneficial exchanges. At Danful, we understand the importance of connectivity, and we have created a model which provides bespoke experiences based on your passions or hobbies. With us, expect a long-lasting spiritual bond between you and your destinations. Live, love, Danful, Africa. To learn more, visit danful.africa.
Peace, family. We are live again. Dynasty Mirror Search for Huru. I'm having some technical difficulties with my camera on my desktop computer. I don't know why. Let's see if I get this going. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, the light is on. The light to my camera's on, but the camera's not on. Okay, anyways, guys, we're gonna roll. Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Dynasty Mirror Search for Huru. You guys know the drill. Please hit that like button. And please hit that like button. Also, make sure you share. And make sure, there we go. Okay, guys, let me get this down. Let me get this together a little bit. I just been having this camera, man. It's just, now I went back off. Okay, it's unplugged. All right, guys, we're just gonna roll without the camera. And I'm just gonna start live streaming with my laptop. Okay, now he wants to fall off. Okay, whatever. All right, everyone. Like, share, subscribe. Please like, share, subscribe. Also, make sure you visit donfo.africa. Again, please visit donfo.africa to learn, what we're doing, where we're traveling to, where we're going, all that good stuff. Shout out to everybody that's already in the chat room. We got an interesting discussion. An interesting discussion today. Okay. What's Black people's obsession with socialism and failed dictators? And I would say this, and we'll get into it. Black people are worse off under socialism than they were under Jim Crow. Again, Black people were worse off under socialism than they were Jim Crow. But we'll get into that here in a second. I'm going to try to get my camera working. But in the meantime, we got a couple of announcements. Announcement number one, we are rolling to South Africa. Still plan on going to South Africa. That is going to be May 25th through April 2nd. Again, May 25th through April 2nd. We are rolling to South Africa, again, May 25th through April 2nd. If you're interested in joining us, please visit donfo.africa. Again, please visit donfo.africa if you're interested in joining Now we are also going to Senegal May 25th. Oh, got a camera here. Got a camera, y'all. We got a camera. Okay. We kind of cooking with fish grease, y'all. We kind of cooking with fish grease. Also, May 20, no, I'm sorry. May 9th through the 18th. May 9th through the 18th, we are rolling to Senegal for the Jazz Festival. So if you're interested in joining us in Senegal or joining us in Cape Town, now the Senegal trip is filling up fast. I got 4 spots left. As far as Cape Town, wide open. If you want to roll, please visit Downfall.Africa. Again, please visit Downfall.Africa to learn more. We are also rolling to Nigeria in August for the Oshun Festival. That's August 9th to the 18th. Zanzibar in September for Safari Blue. That's September 20th to 29th. And then we're going to, um, don't freeze up on me. Then we're going to um, Ivory Coast and Ghana in November. So if you're interested in joining, please visit Donfo.Africa. Again, please visit Donfo.Africa. Somebody says Senegal airport trash everywhere. Let me say this. Hold on. Let me stop this screen. All right, let me stop the screen. There we go. Um, this is the issue when it comes to Africa and its airports and Africa and its facilities. They just yeah, I'm gonna have to. We're gonna have to restart this over. I'm gonna have to come. I'm gonna have to switch to my laptop. I can't do this. I gotta switch to my laptop. This just keeps freezing up on me. In fact, I'm just gonna cut my camera off. I'm gonna cut my camera off, y'all. Yeah, I'm just gonna go back to my laptop next time. Somebody said went to Senegal airport, trash everywhere. That's not necessarily true. I fly in and out of Senegal. But I would definitely say this: there's definitely an issue when it comes to properly maintaining um, facilities in Africa. I don't know if it's lack of training. And I'll say this: I'm not, I will lie to say, I would be a liar to say that my house is clean, super clean, where you could eat off the floor. I would be lying if I were to say that. Again, I would be lying if I were to say that. But for example, the Senegalese airport. Senegal airport is relatively new. I want to say it opened in 2018, maybe 2017. And you go into the bathrooms, soap dispensers aren't working. There's no dispensers; they're all broken. So all the branded dispensers are broken, and they don't replace them. There's no soap. Instead of proper paper towels, so guys, these are little pet peeves, but hey, again, the airport is your first interaction when you arrive into a country, so that airport needs to be on point. You go into the bathroom, guys. Senegal is Islamic country, so when you have our Muslim brothers and sisters, or Muslim brothers in this case, when they're praying, sometimes you'll go into the bathroom and they got their big feet in the sink, washing their feet, getting ready for prayer. Do not put your big Senegalese feet in the sink in the bathroom before prayer. Those sinks are meant to wash your hands. And then if you want to take some water and splash on your face, that's fine. But you do not wash your big feet in the sink. That's not what it's meant for. So that was one of my pet peeves. I'm very patient. Yeah, yeah. You go into some of these airports in Islamic countries, and you see feet being washed before prayer in the sinks. Nah, stop that. No, no, that's not cool. Stop that. Stop it. In Sierra Leone, the country I love, my country, Sierra Leone, Freetown City Hall, which is the tallest building in Sierra Leone, which is again a brand new building. I want to say opened maybe 2020, 2021. Brand new building, beautiful building. I went in there, during our last trip a couple weeks ago in Sierra Leone. I go into the bathrooms. All of the toilet seat covers are completely gone. No more toilet seat covers. They're all gone. No dispensers in the bathroom. The floors aren't clean. So I will admit we have a problem in maintaining our facilities. And again, I would be lying to say that my house is spotless. I would be lying. But again, these are your government public facilities, and they need some cleaning. And these are beautiful airports, beautiful uh, government city buildings, brand new, and they are not being properly maintained. Somebody said they stole the toilet seats. I swear to God, I went into the bathroom on the first floor at Freetown City Hall. All the toilet seat covers gone. Gone. No dispensers, no toilet paper, no dispensers to wash your hands. Like, it's like, come on, y'all. So, you use the bathroom, you got to wash your hands. Ain't no soap. So I had to go upstairs to the floor where you access the rooftop. I had to go to that bathroom to wash my hands. But like I said, dispenser's gone, toilet seat covers gone, floor's not properly cleaned. I don't know what it is in just maintaining facility, like having facility services on site, having SOP standard operating procedures on how to properly clean, just having a mop, clean bucket water, and some pine sol. And I'm not trying to be on some bougie American stuff. I'm like, y'all, this is a brand new multi-million dollar facility. This is not a hole in the wall uh juke joint restaurant, hole in the wall juke joint. This is multi-million dollar airports, multi-million dollar um uh government facilities that are brand new, speaking new. Yeah, we are not maintaining the facilities at all. But guys, hit the like button. Please hit that like button. Also, make sure you visit Africa. Guys, I want to apologize about the lag. Like, I have this iMac, and it's just I need some work on it. It's just the iMac is lagging. I don't know if I have some type of bug on it, but they say Macs can't get viruses. I don't know what's going on, but I want to use it, but it's just I don't know. It's just a lot of lag with it, a lot of lag, and it freezes up. I want to put it to use. I probably just put it in my son's room and let him use it. We got to do his homework project or something. That's probably what I'm going to end up doing. But I'll put a link in the chat room shortly. Tonight's topic: what's Black people's obsession with socialism and failed dictators? And I want to address some of the comments in the chat room. Capitalism does not work collectively for Black folks. How has socialism? Give me the examples of socialism working for the collective of Black folks. Hey, this ain't my Obama internet. All right, I got Xfinity fast Wi-Fi. Okay, strong Ethernet Xfinity connections. All right, no Obama phones over here. I have seen capitalism put more, and I'm not saying capitalism is perfect. Capitalism is definitely flawed, but you cannot replace You can't complain about capitalism and replace it with a failed system or ideology like Marxism, socialism, and communism. These have all failed. I was watching a video earlier before I came on with you guys in regards to some of the black success and black businesses here in Atlanta and some of the larger black businesses. And you have a Herman J. Russell. Herman J. Russell built Atlanta or played a major role in building Atlanta. Played a major role in the concessions. And I tell people this: Atlanta's airport is the best airport in the world. We can argue all you want to. Atlanta airport is the best airport in the world. Period, bar none. From food selection to everything. And when I say all of the concessions companies in Atlanta are all blackity black black black, and they be throwing down, I love Atlanta airport. But I was thinking to myself, give me an H.R. Russell under socialism. All this black excellence and black wealth and blackity black on black businesses and that you talk about it. Give me the example of striving black businesses under socialism. Oh wait, give me the Herman J. Russell under a system of socialism. Give me the Madam C.J. Walker. You might not explain. I'm sorry. You might not agree with Madam C.J. Walker for putting lye and straightening women's hair and perming women's hair, because the argument was, well, these countries are hit with sanctions. That's the excuse everyone wants to use whenever we have these talk about socialism. Why has it failed? Communism, why has it failed? Marxism, why has it failed? Well, the capitalist countries are always interfering. That's the argument. But if you look at the black successes here in America under Jim Crow, the ultimate interference, when we were here at the belly of the beast, What's the excuse for socialism if you have your own country? And don't get me started on the some of these socialist leaders have been the most brutal, corrupt leaders ever. Again, these socialist regimes have been some of the most brutal, corrupt leaders ever. We can start with Maduro. We can start with your boy in North Korea. We could start with what's his name, Basuko, and what was it in Central African Republic? These socialist, communist, Marxism countries and these Latin American, African countries have been some of the most terrible, brutal, thieving, terrorize their own citizens countries on the planet. Name one socialist leader worse than any American leader. Maduro. Maduro. There you go. And that was real quick. Sekou Toure. That's another one. Let's see here. Who else? Who else? Let's find some more. Just about every leader in Central America that was a socialist. Your boy Noriega. Hell, I throw Castro in there. Well, Noriega wasn't a communist, but definitely Castro. Yeah, my not Noriega. Hell, is it Marxism? Here we go. The president of Eritrea. That's another one. The president of Eritrea. I'll put a link in the chat room. But in closing, socialism has completely failed. About black people in Cuba are some of the poorest people on the planet. They're at the bottom. Stop it. Links in the chat room. Black people in Cuba are some of the most poorest people on the planet. Black people in these social Latin American countries are some of the most poorest people that have the least access to opportunities on this planet. Go ahead, Wildflower.
Hi, good afternoon. Is it good afternoon? I don't know what time it is. Hi, Dynasty. Hi,
Hey.
everybody in the chat. It's kind of late here in the UK, but I just wanted to add my little 2 cents, two two pennies into the conversation. Um, I find it really interesting that because the propaganda at the moment is, it has been for the longest time, that capitalism is the best way to run societies. But I would like to remind people that capitalism was started from in its inception is drenched in blood of my people, blood of African people. So it was drenched in blood in its inception, which is the exploitation of black and brown lands and also black and brown bodies. And it's the accumulation of wealth by a few on top. And at the bottom, we're like little rats at the bottom trying to get a little bit of scraps by the ruling elite. So when we get a little bit of the scraps, we consider ourselves being successful when actually we're living in a system that is very exploitative. You cannot convince me that socialism has failed when it hasn't ever been properly given a chance. Whenever leaders have tried socialism, they've always been undermined by the West, which their way of running economies has to be the capitalist model, which makes
That
a few rich and the
Wildflower,
most of
that's an excuse. Since the beginning of time, other men have interfered with other men and their ideas. So I'm getting tired of the
But that doesn't make
West
it an
theory.
excuse. That doesn't make it an
But
excuse. It does not under. I
that's just
wanted.
how when you have a country, when you have borders, there are going to be other people that are going to challenge you, whether it's the West or people within your borders or people next door
But
that also
those
don't.
people that are they're undermining the socialism. So socialism has not been given the right chance to flourish because it goes against the accumulative model, which is capitalism. A lot of countries in Africa are capitalist, and we still haven't managed because we're not very good at capitalism because by nature we're socialist. That's why we have philosophies like Ubuntu, which is about collective growth, everybody chipping in to lift each other. This individualism that is built into European culture works really well if you want to be a capitalist. It's competition, dog eat dog. That is a European culture. We are a collectivist people as Africans by nature. This is why even when we try capitalism, we end up giving things away for free because it's not in our nature to be competitive. But the European man who came from the caves of Europe that is so cold, he had to kill another man to eat. We've never had to do that. So now they're putting their system, their culture, running things, which is capitalism, to us, which is not normal for us. And here in London, here in Europe, a lot of the things that we have as social welfare came from socialism, came from people pushing, saying, we're not going to have the landlords treating regular people like this. We're not going to have people having no rights, no healthcare, no free healthcare. In Europe, most of the benefits that people enjoy, that they scoffle and laugh at Americans that don't, because America is very capitalist, we got that through socialism, through social policies that were pushed saying we need collective bargaining. So when people say, look at Scandinavian countries, they found a way where they want to mix socialism with capitalism. And they're the happiest countries in the world. You know why? Because they lean more on socialism than capitalism. Look at the UK. It wants to be more capitalist and more people are depressed, more people are poor, but yet we have billionaires. How does that help us? Anyway, someone.
All right, go ahead, too, Nigel.
For having me, Diners. Thank you, the panelists and the chat, and the viewers. By the way, I think you know there are. I like to separate them into two parts. There is the economic system and the political system. In the democratic world, their economic system is actually not very representative of the people, because it tends to be top leaning and top heavy. We all know how rich the richest people in America are, and in the socialist system, which may be as a freak of nature, the way history turns out. In the political system, it's not very representative of the people, because they tend to become more dictatorial in the socialist systems. But the economic system, it's actually quite representative of the people, because most of the people have access to resources within the system. And the reason why Africans felt a little bit more, what they call it, it was more attractive to them, because it was the other system that wasn't the one oppressing them. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the best one for them. You see what I mean? So all systems, if you look at the world, all systems work. Even the communist system of China is working right now politically. And at the same time, the economic model of China is also capitalist. So you can see that different systems can work. It depends on the environment you learn how to operate in. And I think the Chinese mastered it somehow. They understood one of the most fundamental things about societies. They went for power first, then they embrace capitalist system, even if they are communist, which is crazy. And look at how far they've come. And it seems to, the two systems seems to have worked very, very well for them. So, but in Africa, we just embrace socialism blindly, just because it's a kind of opposite what the West represents. We don't look at it from the point of view that it's actually quite, given where Africa is right now, maybe capitalist system actually works quite well. Because if you look at what Dangote is doing in Nigeria, he's a capitalist, and because he has an interest in his company working, he's the first person to create a refinery that seems to be standing the test of time so far, while the government refineries are not working. You see what I mean? So the capitalist system has a way of overcoming the drawbacks of nationalized institutions. So all of them can work, and I really think Africans need to rethink their approach to socialism, because one, you are just antagonizing the West, which is the most powerful entity in the world. You don't want to antagonize them. Then you also, in terms of, because your system is already corrupt, it makes sense for individuals to control the means of production, because that individual has an interest in the company succeeding. And from what you can see on the continent right now, it seems to be working from the point of view, if you have billionaires in the country that have a lot of money, you say that system tend to work than when you make it a government system or something that is nationalized. The people run it down. That's what I've noticed. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Teddy.
Yeah, okay. Wildflower pretty much said everything I was going to say. So I'd like to add that some other things to that. Does America have free healthcare? Cuba does. Does socialist system? Does
Teddy? Cuba Cuba is turning into a failed state.
Yeah, according to who? According to American standards?
No, according to Cuban standards.
According to American standards. If that was the case, no, there would be nobody in Cuba.
And they're leaving by the boatloads. Look it up. They are leaving by the boatloads.
There'd be nobody in Cuba.
They are leaving by the boatloads in Cuba.
Where's the evidence of that? Where's the evidence?
I'll pull it up. No worries.
Okay, yeah. But anyway, like I was saying, they have free healthcare. They have free paid college. How many are you a college graduate? Do you still have, not trying to get in your business or whatnot, but do you have student loan debt? There's no student loan debt in Cuba. China's a socialist country. There's billionaires in China. What's the excuse there? Is President Xi of China? Is he a dictator? Vietnam's a socialist country. What's the excuse there?
Oh no, he's definitely a dictator. When's the last time they had
how is he a dictator?
When's the last time China has had a fair election?
They don't have election. They have a different. They have a different. They have a different political system that works for them.
If Trump was to do the same thing that Jinping is doing, these people will go crazy. Even all you socialists here in America will lose it.
And under a socialist system, the socialist is determined by the people. People have to agree. The majority of the population have to agree that we're going to live like this. We're going to live in a social system, and the government's going to support us.
That's not how it works in China.
That is exactly how it works.
China is authoritarian.
China is not authoritarian.
So when's the last time they've had an election?
They don't have elections.
Okay,
no. Let me put it this way. They do have elections. They have a one-party system. A one-party system. That everybody agreed to. That's what they want to have.
Everybody agreed. So you're telling me the
1.4 billionaires plus
agreed to a one-party system?
Yeah, they agreed to that. The 1.4 billion people that live in China, or 1.4 billion more or less that live in China, agreed to that. If not,
one-party system.
Yeah, agreed to a one-party system. Yes, during the Chinese Revolution, they agreed to they're going to have a one-party system. And again, they do have elections. You're going to call
why did the opposition to Jinping? Why did they disappear?
The opposition to Jinping, they don't have any opposition. There's only one party. There's no opposition.
We don't have any opposition.
They don't have an opposition party, if that's what you're referring to. You do have people that don't like the party in power. Yeah, you do have that.
Okay, here we go. Cuba empties exit of more than 1 million people, leaves an aging population. Severe economic crisis and represent. I'll put the article in the chat room.
Yeah, go ahead and put it in and make a note of the date on that too.
It's August 1st, 2000. It's August 1st, 2025.
Okay. Well, like I was saying, they have a one-party system which they agreed to, and people there are no homeless people in Cuba. There are no homeless people in China.
There are no homeless people in Cuba.
There are no homeless people.
Teddy, stop.
No, okay.
Stop.
Listen,
Teddy,
under a socialist system, France has a socialist system. France is socialist.
And there are homeless people all over France.
Yeah, and they have a social system based on capitalism, integrated with capitalism. That's the same thing China does. China does that. China has their political system is socialist. Their economic system is capitalist for the most part. It's capitalist. So you have a socialist type political system, a socialist political structure, and a capitalist, want to call it capitalist, economic system.
So Teddy, you're okay with a one-party system?
I'm okay with people being taken care of. Regardless, multiple parties, one party. If one party system works, if socialism works, socialism works. Capitalism is exploitive. It's exploitive. Capitalism encourages individualism. It encourages individuals to be exploited. You can't tell me any of those people that you just named that live in Atlanta
you're saying there's no exploitation in China or in Cuba.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that their system is not built on exploitation.
Teddy, my Nike tennis shoes that were made in China, for some guys getting paid $1 a day.
Who owns Nike?
That's not exploitation.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Is Nike an American company? Is Nike?
That's not being created through exploitation.
And who owns Nike?
No,
where's Nike headquartered?
You said there's no exploitation in China.
Not by the Chinese.
Our goods that we use is not being. These people are not being exploited.
The company again. Answer the question: where is Nike headquartered?
It's headquartered in America, but everything is made in China.
And you just said
everything is made in China,
right? And who's doing the exploiting?
So are you saying sweatshops are not? So you're saying Chinese sweatshops are not exploitation?
Who's doing the exploiting? That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm saying.
But are these American companies allowed to exploit Chinese labor? Who gives the green light on that?
Who gives the green light on that? Why would they exploit them in the first place?
Teddy, who gives the green light on Chinese workers in sweatshops being there's a whole documentary on this getting exploited in America in China. Who gives the green light on it?
Who? What does that? What's the point of that?
The point I'm saying is you're saying that capitalism exploits, and then you bring up for example of China, and Chinese are getting exploited under their own system that you claim is social, that you're saying is socialism.
Chinese are not exploiting other Chinese. Americans exploiting other Chinese.
Dude, Teddy, stop. Teddy, who owns the sweatshops? Teddy, who owns the sweatshops?
Who owns it? Nike owns the sweatshops. Nike owns the sweatshops.
So now you're moving the goalpost. That is,
I'm not moving it anywhere. You ask who owns the sweatshop. Nike owns the sweatshop.
So you're saying the Chinese that are being exploited in China, that are allowed to be exploited in China, that is America's fault.
Who's doing the exploiting? That's the point. Who's doing the exploitation?
The Chinese are allowing it.
The Chinese.
I think basically your argument is like you are trying to say that America is the one making China do it, but the Chinese people are actually accepting it as a way of gaining access to relevant technology and capital. That is why they are doing it. As a matter of fact, the leader said it doesn't matter where you get it from, as long as the stuff brings you what you want. That's what you need. And because if they relied only on communism, they will still be poor, because a lot of people died due to famine, due to their socialist program that they were running, communist program that they were running in the 50s and 60s. So they know that they need access to wealth in the end. In the end, you still need, because these systems, they are designed to a kind of for the betterment of the people, isn't it? So if capitalism is going to provide them that, they're going to do whatever the capitalists want. And if you look at the trade that they've made, it was a very, very smart one, because clearly since 1970 to today, you can see the advancement China has made. So it is true, but you are shying away from admitting that based on that, the Chinese people knew they had to also exploit their own people. Chinese people exploited Chinese people. Let's face it, a lot of them are very, very rich. Alibaba guy is very, very rich. That's not as rich as most Chinese.
And Chinese wages are supported by the socialist government. So that difference, that say you're making $7 an hour, and they only make $3 an hour in China. Well, their housing is covered by socialism. Food is covered by socialism. That's socialism. The people are taken care of under socialism. Their health care is subsidized.
Have you seen the living conditions that these Chinese sweatshop workers are living in, Teddy? Come, Teddy, stop.
What the millionaire? Have you seen China? Have you seen images of China lately? Have you seen the roads they're building? Have you seen
Teddy? That's an example of me going to Buckhead here in Atlanta and completely ignoring the poverty in some of the other parts of Atlanta. Come on, Teddy, stop moving.
No, look at look.
I'm gonna go to the richest communities in Atlanta and say, hey, everything's okay, no poverty here. Look over here. Again, that's like me going to Nigeria, going to Victoria Island, going to Banana Island, and say, hey, there's no poverty. There's no poverty in Nigeria. Look at Banana Island.
Okay, so how do you explain the advancement of China over the last 30, 40 years, when they came out of complete poverty? They're not impoverished. They have a socialist system. They are not impoverished at all.
There's poverty in Cuba. There's poverty in Venezuela.
I don't know why. Hold on. This is not controversial. The Chinese people they went through hell to get to where they are right now. I remember seeing a documentary where they had this construction, these buildings, where between the buildings they had nets because the workers jumped from the top floors and to commit suicide. So they put the net to catch them. That is how bad the working conditions were for those workers in China. I remember seeing that documentary about 10 years ago. So they went through hell working in sweatshops and working for minimal pay and in hazardous conditions. This is a fact of life. I don't know why you are defending it. Just because you like the fact that the communist regime performed very well, it doesn't mean those things didn't happen. That's what the kind of Diners is trying to highlight.
Okay, but I'm also making a point that capitalism doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But Teddy, give me the socialist examples of a Bob Johnson, a Rob Johnson.
You can't. How you give a social example of capitalist? They're all capitalist. How do you do
And
that?
that's what I'm saying. And that's the point I'm making. Nothing has came from, except for intellectuals. I'll give you that. Some intellectuals. Nothing has came from socialism as far as when it comes to the black community, except for intellectuals. I'll give you intellectuals. But as far as building, absolutely nothing.
Okay. Well, like Wildfire said, she made one of the points that I was going to make was that black folks are social by nature. Capitalism has not worked for the collective of black. Keyword collective. Collective of black folks.
Socialism has not either.
Again, like one of her points was the point I was going to make. It hasn't had an opportunity to.
That's
when you've got capitalism exploiting black folks.
That's an excuse. That's an excuse.
That's not an excuse.
Black people are being exploited in socialist countries. That's an excuse.
If you're getting capitalism by nature is exploitive. It just is.
But to say that socialism and communism isn't is ridiculous. You've had some of the largest famines under communism and socialism.
You got famines under capitalism.
Not at the level of communism and socialism.
How is that not true? How is that true or not true? You got family right here. Well, it's a different level.
Teddy, where do you live right now? See, the issue I have with the so-called black socialists, you guys refuse to do anything socialist related. You refuse to relocate to any of these socialist countries. You stay in this, and you thrive in capitalist societies.
Where I live is my business.
Oh boy, here we go. I know. Okay.
Yeah, no, you asked me about.
I'm just saying, like it's capital. I mean, socialism.
We are
makes
on the
great.
It makes
a great.
Tell people where I live.
Socialism. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. Socialism.
Okay, that's where you live. I used to live there,
and
so I know what you're talking about.
Socialism, Marxism, communism makes a great T-shirt. Like what's this guy Che Guevara with the red communist star? Great T-shirt. But an absolutely failed ideology and system.
Capitalism is these capitalist systems are debt-driven systems. That means that people are in debt. They owe somebody some other money. You can how do you have any freedom if you constantly having to pay somebody off? You constantly don't really own anything. You don't own anything. Under socialist system, some communist countries, you don't own anything, but that's the nature of socialism, communism. It's collective. So everybody owns everything.
But from what we have seen that.
Tonight, let me do this. Let me pass it to Tinga BC, then I'll pass it back to you. Tinga BC, go ahead.
Hello, everybody. How y'all doing today?
Doing good.
Yeah, that's good. In my opinion, I would echo some of the sentiments that I guess he said that Wildflower, because I just started listening like 5 minutes ago, that Wildflower said. When you break down the words, when you look at capitalism, the root of capitalism is cap, which comes from caput. When in Latin that means head, single, individual. And then when you oppose that to a word socialism, the root of that is soc, which that is together, partner. And then even when you look at communism, quote unquote communism, the root of that is community, together. So in essence, in theory, if you're talking about socialism and communism, it would be more, I would say, it would be more conducive to our people because historically that's just how we operated, communal, social, going towards society. In practice, I would say that ideologies are just ideologies. They're not one is going to be inherently, I would say, better than the other. It just depends on who's implementing it. So if you have despots that are implementing capitalism, you're going to have a despotic version of capitalism. If you have despots that are operating in communism, you're going to have a despotic version of communism. Intrinsically, it would be best to take the best parts of capitalism and implement them with socialism and implement them with communism and mix them together. The ism and schism thing is really inconsequential. What the sister, according to what the brother said that she said was correct. Socialism and communism haven't been given the ability to flourish on a massive scale, because once those things are implemented, the power structure, which is the United States, England, Britain, I mean not Britain, France, just the whole Anglo-American establishment. Once you are capitalist, or I mean, once you are communist or socialist, they will try their best to limit you. Trade will not be actualized if you are doing things that don't
Do me a
benefit
favor.
them.
Explain Tanzania and the Julius Nyerere.
Tanzania and Julius, I'm not I can't off the top of my head, I'm not
So
versed.
under Julius Nyerere, Tanzania switched to communism or socialism, and Tanzania almost collapsed. And Julius Nyerere said it was a mistake.
Yeah, in this specific climate, it's not conducive to just do communism solely. You, in order to have successful communism, you need a base. So if you don't have the base of resources to actually sustain it and be self sufficient, which is extremely difficult, if you're not in a environment with
Dude,
other nations
we
that
have
are available to trade, and it's not coming from a capitalist mindset, then it's not going to work, because it's extremely hard to be self sufficient now, and you're not going to be cooperating with quote unquote capitalist nations. But again, I'm inherently, like I said, it's not about the isms and the schism. It's the people that are implementing it. Like if you look at feudalism, it's the same way. Like it's just you have people that can be exploited and you have people that can be exploiters, but it's not exclusive to capitalism. It's not exclusive to socialism. It's not exclusive to communism. But in the to say that, like, when you give examples of countries that haven't been able to succeed in it, I mean, you're going to rarely find any country that's succeeding in capitalism as well, to a degree that the people that are on top are. Within this system, if you're not capitulating, there's a ceiling that you have, because if you don't have the military apparatus to actualize self-determination, you're going to be taken advantage of by the global powers in the world right now currently. And that's just is what it is, whether you're communist, socialist, capitalist, whether you practice feudalism. It's really inconsequential, and people get caught up in the ideology. I would say that capitalism in itself, it can be leaned towards being more. It creates a more individualistic society, which is not good. But I think there are good things within capitalism that can be adopted. But again, it's not like people get caught up in the ism and schism when the best, from what I've seen, the most because America's not laissez-faire
But if I can
capitalism.
interject, see, this is the problem I have. I just think socialists are some of the laziest people ever. Like, these people refuse to implement their socialism.
But it's because it's not lazy. It's the fact that it's difficult. You're going to have to, in order for it to be successful, you're going to have to attain self-sufficiency.
Right, and these people don't even try.
No, I don't. I can't make that statement.
They don't even try. Like,
I can't say they don't try it, brother. It's extremely difficult to actualize it.
They barely try, man. They won't taste their own medicine. Like, trust me, I understand the Che Guevara t-shirts and
no, it's not Che Guevara
and yelling Castro and all this other stuff, but these people live in capitalist societies.
Brother, there's very little options with the current world. But I'm not saying that, like I'm saying, in essence, it's not about the ism.
You got North Korea. You got North
Korea.
No,
North Korea doesn't even have open immigration.
You got Cuba.
Cuba, yeah, you can again. Cuba doesn't offer open citizenship. If you're not a born Cuban, it's going to be extremely difficult to obtain citizenship within Cuba.
You got Venezuela.
Venezuela is not about to be no socialist country in the next 3 months. Like it's the conversation is disingenuous because, again, like when you look at the way that the capitalist powers operate, which again I'm not even trying to get into the ism and schism, but they make it extremely difficult to survive being quote unquote socialist. And if you don't have I would say a commune of countries that you can actually exchange trade with that aren't acting in capitalist means, it's going to be hard to implement.
And that's why whenever they bring up the embargo excuse, like there are other countries that are willing to trade with you.
Yeah, and Venezuela was one of them. And what did America do? And what did America do? No, you cannot trade with them. Told Cuba or Venezuela, you cannot trade with Cuba. They don't like Russia trading with Cuba. They don't like China trading with Cuba. They don't like China. America doesn't like China trading with Venezuela. America doesn't like China trading or Venezuela trading with Iran. So what do they do?
What does that say about these other? So basically, what you're saying is socialist sounds great on a T-shirt, but they can't develop any type of infrastructures or systems to defend themselves.
If the capitalists that are exploiting them don't want them to develop, yes, because capitalism by nature is exploitive.
Brother, this same argument could be made for quote unquote Pan-Africanism. And it's the argument that I hear these crackpot foundational, whatever they call themselves, arguments make. They say Pan-Africanism hasn't been successful. Name one successful Pan-Africanist country as if it's been available to operate in a vacuum and without being impeded. So they make these same statements.
I think one of the issue I have with many of our people that embrace socialism is because they somehow assume the black culture on the continent or somehow even in the diaspora is socialist. I think the main reason why they embrace socialist ideals is because it was against their oppressor. That's basically it. And to be fair, most of the nations that emerged from the control of the Western powers, like if you look at Russia, this in China, Vietnam, all those countries, they embrace kind of socialist values at first. Even India embraced socialist values before they transition back to a capitalist system. I don't believe that African culture is necessarily socialist, because if you look at the way we play around and like to show off our wealth to each other, we are very, very like top down, and we are the kind of people that sold people, human beings even. So we are not exactly very naive in terms of, we just didn't have power. That's all. And all systems, by the way, gets corrupted by the elites.
I can tell you right now, Mansa Musa was not a socialist.
Exactly.
That man
so I don't know where they got the idea that we're socialist.
That man was a free market capitalist.
That is my point. So hold on. See, my point is that if you look at the environment, our countries have already started, aligning with the West by and large. They tend to follow Western this thing lead. So why still keep embracing socialist value that is not enhancing your system? Because from what I can see, even Western powers, when they were rising, they had mega corporations like the Dutch East Indian Company that was larger than nations. They had, and it's almost as if it's the nature of capitalist system for individuals or corporate consultants or a group of people to own large institutions and use that to magnify the power of their nations. If you look at Google today, Google appears to be a corporation, but yet it's an American power tool at the same time. So you have to study how capitalism moves. And from what I can see in Nigeria, I repeat it again, I see signs that there is something about individual power and wealth that it kind of inoculates that system from corruption. Because if you have a socialist system, once you corrupt the system, everybody's corrupt. But if you have somebody that's a billionaire, yes, he's a monopolist, he would talk down to other people and may not be very fair to all his workers, but he has an interest in maintaining his wealth. So he will want to grow it. And because he wants to grow it, that nation is going to benefit from that growth, like what Nigeria is gaining from Dangote refinery right now. Like almost all Western countries gain from super companies, from Elon Musk today. That's how capitalist systems work. And I think we in our community have to understand that, because we just instinctively flinch against capitalism because we saw that in the 60s and 70s, socialism was a thing to do if you want to oppose the West. And I really think our people should be more aware of it.
Hey, let me play this video real quick.
Mistakes.
The rise and fall of Ujamaa,
Why Tanzania's socialist dream failed. Welcome to Geo-Africa, where we unpack the untold stories of Africa's history. Today, we dive into one of the most ambitious social experiments on the continent, Julius Nyerere's Ujamaa. In the 1960s, fresh from independence, Nyerere dreamed of uniting Tanzanians through Ujamaa, or familyhood. Inspired by African socialism, he aimed to create equality, self-reliance, and community-based development. On paper, it sounded like the perfect antidote to colonial capitalism. In reality, not so much. So, what went wrong? Let's break it down. 1. Forced villagization. To implement Ujamaa, Nyerere relocated millions of people into communal villages. The idea was to pool resources and work together. But many were forced to move against their will. People were uprooted from their ancestral lands, disrupting traditional ways of life. Imagine being told to leave your home and start farming in an unfamiliar area, with no guarantee of success. 2. Poor planning and implementation. Ujamaa villages were poorly planned. Infrastructure, resources, and farming tools were often lacking. Worse, the government overestimated the ability of these villages to produce enough food. The result, declining agricultural production and widespread hunger. 3rd, dependency on foreign aid. Ironically, a policy built on self-reliance became heavily dependent on foreign aid. As the economy weakened, Tanzania borrowed heavily from international donors. This undermined the very principles of Ujamaa and plunged the country into debt. 4th, resistance from the people. Tanzanians weren't on board with Ujamaa. Many resisted collectivization, viewing it as an attack on their independence. Farmers, in particular, preferred working on their own plots rather than communal farms where profits were shared equally, regardless of effort. 5th, global economic pressures. The 1970s brought oil shocks and global recessions. Tanzania's economy, already struggling under Ujamaa, couldn't withstand these pressures. Export revenues dropped, and essential goods became scarce, adding fuel to the fire. 6th, lack of incentives. Ujamaa discouraged individual enterprise. Farmers had no motivation to work harder since profits were communal. Without incentives for innovation or efficiency, productivity declined year after year. By the 1980s, Ujamaa had collapsed, leaving Tanzania's economy in shambles. But was it all bad? Not entirely. Ujamaa did promote national unity and pride, something rare in newly independent African states. Yet, its economic failures overshadowed these achievements. So, what do you think? Was Ujamaa doomed from the start, or could it have succeeded with better planning and execution?
Julius came out himself in his own words and said that him shifting to socialism was a mistake. He said it himself. He didn't blame the West. He didn't blame being sabotaged. He said that it was a mistake, period. He didn't blame sanctions. He said himself it was a mistake.
It just said in that report that, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, to that's what, and again, no one's saying that it's 100% the fault of people that are outside of the nation that decides to go socialist or quote unquote communist. What I'm saying is, when those nations get to thrive, it's not, we can't act as if they're operating in a vacuum, so where they're not going to be disturbed. That's my thing. Yeah, there are people that have badly implemented systems. And like I said, in my opinion, it's not about the individual. Like, it's not about capitalism being inherently better than communism or inherently better than socialism. It's best to take the best practices of all the systems, combine what works and throw out what doesn't, and then you form something like that, form something that benefits your specific group of people. Getting caught up in the isms and schisms is stupid.
I think that is true. I think one of the things I noticed is that, you know how the Europeans came to America and the natives started falling due to the diseases that they brought over. That is how capitalist system behaves. They are more resilient to failure because most of the wealth is held in the hands of a few that have interest in growing capital. They want to make more money. So even if the system is corrupt, we all know American system is corrupt, but these guys still want to make more money. So they want to innovate, they want to do things to make more money, and they are less susceptible to corrupt practices because if they are corrupt, their systems, their company will fail. So you see, that selfishness enables capitalism to succeed. And from my studies, from watching it, it's very fascinating because I never grew up noticing that. Nobody talks about how these large institutions, companies that are owned by people, actually are the backbone of the power of most capitalist states. That's at the even the Japanese this in the industrialization that led to the first and second world war that they engaged in. I found out that it was the capitalists within the system that funded the war machine. So when America defeated them, they made sure they cut them down because those capitalists they make nations very, very powerful. I really think our community, we need to pick up on that.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Wildflower.
Can I just say something? A lot of people have spoken, and I felt I was being censored because I didn't, get an opportunity to say what I wanted to add. I hear a lot of examples being given about African countries trying socialism, because obviously socialism is going to get undermined by the capitalist West. They're in a dominant power because they have force to ensure that we do what they say.
If it's not the capitalist West, it's going to be other socialist countries. That's just from the beginning of mankind. Men have challenged other men, period, point blank. That's why the hard stop. That's why the whole, it's the capitalists that are challenging us. You're going to get challenged, period.
But the argument here is why is capitalism hasn't worked? And I'm saying that it has been undermined. Whenever you really want to have a proper system where workers own the companies, workers have rights. I can give an example. Here in the UK, we have the NHS, free healthcare. That means free healthcare was brought in under a socialist system after the Second World War. And I would never want to live in America where I will end up going broke, losing my home because I couldn't afford my medical bills. I can have my baby and it won't cost me a penny. Yeah. And the National Health Service that we have in this country, that is the pride of the UK, the pride of Britain, came about because of socialism. The welfare system that we enjoy in the UK, that America can only dream about, came about because of socialism. It was the socialists, the communists that were putting pressure on these ruling class that you can't treat people that way. Yeah, so many countries in Europe.
And Wildflower, just like in Europe, here in America, people are completely exploiting and abusing the welfare system.
Yeah, but you guys don't even have a welfare system to abuse because people end up dying on the street because they have no health care.
Are you serious? It's called Medicaid.
Europe has the best. Europe has the best.
You're not gonna talk over me. I live in America. I'll give you an example. When I moved to LA back in 2008, in 2009, I was an aspiring actor. All right, literally, me and my acting buddies, we were like, listen, we ain't making no money. Hey, we can get food stamps. I literally walked into a county services office and walked out with a $250 food stamp card in freaking 10 minutes.
But that is due to socialism because they had to put some welfare in place. If you want the world to be 100% capitalist,
you're not going to talk over me. All right. But again, it's the system's exploited. My ass could have easily got a job.
But you got the help that you needed. You're against people getting help when they need.
You're not going to talk over me. All right. Like my ass could have easily got a job. Literally 2 months later, I walked back into the office and said, hey, you know what? I'm an able body. I don't need these services. I'm sorry. She said, okay, you know what? Diane, it's all good. There you go.
Can I say something? I wanted to just make my final point. You're saying that you could have gotten a job because you was fully able. The reason why we have a welfare state in Europe that is the best in the world is because we believe that people need to take care of other people. We don't believe that it's like, oh, you're on your own, you get chucked on the street because you can stand up. No, we live in a caring society. The reason for socialism is to care for people. In the UK, you don't pay a penny to use our health service because we want to care for people.
You're not
Workers have holidays in Europe. I can have as many holidays as I want.
Holidays in America.
People don't have paid paternity leave. Everything, you have to get 3-5 jobs to survive in the USA. I will never want that for myself.
What I'm saying is people in both countries abuse and exploit the system.
There's even no system to exploit. Look at how much benefits you get in Scandinavian countries.
Yeah, to Wildflower's point, welfare in America is not universal. Medicare, Medicaid is not universal. It's just not, it's not applicable to everybody. Everybody doesn't get it. When you in a socialist system where there's universal health care, like in Canada, that's universal. It's not universal. So how is it welfare? How is it welfare? It's not universal.
Universities.
Let's establish something here.
Hold on, Darth, it's not your turn. Let me pass it to it's Elvis, and I'll come to you. Go ahead, Elvis.
You getting me, guys?
You're on your Obama phone.
Nah, you can hear me. I just put it on speaker.
Take it off of speaker. You sound is an echo. I'm saying you're on your Obama phone.
Echo, okay. Let me take it off speaker. Okay, how about now?
Go ahead.
All right. Look, I mean, it was FDR who, it was a Democratic president who brought the social safety net in the United States. And I guarantee you, a lot of people who benefit from those social safety nets will be desolate without them. Single poor mothers, poor families who are working but still can't make ends meet and have to get, a food stamp or, a Medicaid, a Medicare for their family members. They will be desolate without those services. The thing about socialism is you need a dash of capitalism to make it work. And there's no capitalist country without socialism within that country's, system. So the point is you have to make enough money through capitalism. You have to socialize the cost and socialize the profit. With capitalism, you socialize the cost and privatize the profit. So a lot of capitalists become insanely wealthy and the poor gets poorer. Whereas in socialist countries that kind of has a panache of capitalism, like the Scandinavian countries, where they have a lot of business and trading, but they then share the profit with the citizens of that country. They provide free education, free healthcare, and all of that is coming through the proceeds of the trade from that country with other nations. So it's a mix of capitalism, but the benefit of that proceed goes to the people socially. So you have to mix it with capitalism. But Dinus, like you were saying, in your mind, as a young broke guy, you shouldn't have got the social safety net there because in your mind you didn't deserve it, even though you needed it. It was there for poor people. In that moment you qualified for it. Poor person, you wasn't working, you didn't have the means to support yourself in that moment. So you qualified for it and you got it. So you can't blame the government for giving you something that you needed. It makes no sense to me when you say that. But I'll pass the mic. I just want to come in and give my 2 cents.
All right, go ahead, Darth.
Yeah, I agree with Elvis right there, because what it seems like you need the initial push. Like there's 2 things: the initial push to actually accumulate wealth, and then you need to distribute that wealth. But what happens sometimes with capitalism is it gets to a point where it becomes so monopolistic that the wealth doesn't get distributed. So it's kind of like eats itself, and like the Ouroboros, you see. So now the people are not buying because the people are poor. You've monopolized everything. So you need to redistribute the wealth that is created as well. But I understand the point that's been made.
Darth, who's buying under socialism? Who's buying under socialism and communism?
Yeah, hold on. You understand? Let me make my point. So you need the initial wealth to be made. Yes, you need capitalism.
Like in America, the first investors were the farmers, the people, the landowners. They invested in a lot of these businesses. You need that. But then you do need a socialist system. If you don't have it to control this capitalism, then it becomes like an Ouroboros. You see, so capitalism, it is the initial push, and as rightly so people understand. But one thing I want to ask, I want to clarify something to Niger. The African leaders didn't choose socialism out of inertia, as is the opposition to capitalism. They chose it because it was operationally more expedient to them to align more with the countries that will give them means in which they can liberate themselves first, and then also liberate themselves, and then actually renationalize back the wealth that's monopolized by the corporations before as well. So it was more expedient for those governments back then to make the government stronger, to renationalize and take back the resources from the old colonial organizations. So it was not out of inertia like that.
But
I
it's the
want to
same as
correct that.
inertia now. You say expediency is a form of inertia. You are nudged in that direction because of the necessity.
Yeah, I'm not saying an inertia like the way you kind of framed it before, like, oh, they went for it because it was just more, they're opposed to the West. It's more opposition to capital. It's more expedient for them personally to make their government stronger, and more expedient for them.
That's exactly what you just said. Even if I put it in slightly different wording, it's exactly what you just said. The path was
not entirely. You framed it in a way like as if they didn't have a kind of process of thought process to it as well. They just went with it because it's
okay. If it's a form of correction, what you said is exactly what I wanted to say, and it was the part that was the only part they had, because if they went towards capitalism, they felt like, okay, I'm going towards the system of the oppressor. So
it's not only about going to the system of oppressor. It's that the oppressor already has all the advantage. He has all the advantage. How are you going to over leverage it? The situation with China, an African situation, what leverage did African countries have that's comparable to China for China to negotiate with the West in order to be able to do that external capitalism but internal socialism? What leverage did African countries have to negotiate back there?
I think the mistake they made was assuming that working with capitalist principles they didn't adopt it properly. They made the mistake of thinking that if they work with capitalist system, it means that they are going to be compromised by the West. It turns out that the Soviet and the West were also undermining them. There was a policy of security minimalization on the continent that they were That's why even if you see the Soviets supporting African countries, they don't support them the way they support, let's say, Pakistan or India. They don't give them anything. That is the problem.
You have to look at, that's true, but you have to look at the situation in terms of proximity and geopolitical leverage that the Chinese and all these other countries had. You see what I'm saying? So the Chinese had the scale, they had the population scale, they had the industrial scale. So they had no choice but to lure the West in and say, well, you can take advantage of us. You be the initial spark of wealth in China. That's what they did. China allowed them to be the initial spark of wealth. And China negotiated that you're also going to have to do technology transfer. But we don't have the scale to negotiate even at that level. We don't have the scale to negotiate at that level. We are small, tiny countries. Why should these big corporations care to pay back tax as well? China, when these corporations traded in China, they pay tax. The Chinese make them pay tax because the government was strong. So you need a strong government for socialism to work. The democracy and socialism is a slow process. It is so slow. You see, Tunaja, I don't know if I'm hearing, but I'll stop there. I'll go on. I'll stop there. I'll say some more later.
All right, go ahead, Shaka.
Peace. I was invited some months ago, if I remember rightly, for a conversation similar to this that happened to be tuned in. I couldn't join then, so I thought let me just join now and settle that, because I said I would at some point. And this is a very interesting conversation, but one that I find is very it's lacking in a lot of areas because of the level of analysis. That we make statements like Tanzania collapsed under Nyerere because of socialism. The argument is not substantiated. apart from to say that Nyerere supposedly, affirmed that this was the case. And we make statements like Mansa Musa was a free market capitalist, and there's no argument provided to demonstrate that that was the case. You know what I'm saying? I think those little things, it just needs more to have a proper conversation and an intelligent conversation around these things. But the one thing I will say to the answer to the actual question is I think that more Black people in this day and age, consciously or unconsciously, have a greater obsession with capitalism, and some to a degree that is the obsession becomes one that is irrational, because we often are just regurgitating popular narratives without actual analysis. And I think that is the problem with what I was identifying before. For example, we say Tanzania failed under Nyerere and collapsed under Nyerere. There is no assessment of what did Nyerere inherit, because he was the first.
I'm just going off the words that he said. That's all.
But that's the point, and I'm saying to you that it's not sufficient to go. Even if he said this, which I'm challenging the idea that he actually said what you said he said. But even if he did, it's not sufficient to just repeat what Nyerere said.
Well, he was the man in charge. He was the man in charge.
I didn't say it's irrelevant. I said it's not sufficient, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like just to say, okay, Nyerere said it. Okay, what if he did say it? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, it might be relevant, but are we not capable of taking the argument beyond that? And I'm challenging again the idea that that is in fact what he said, right? Because I don't know anywhere where Nyerere said that Tanzania collapsed because of Ujamaa. I'm not familiar with that at all. That is not anything that I've ever heard Nyerere say.
If you let me play this, I think this is the clip right here. If you let me play it.
Go on.
You're done. When you're done, go ahead.
No, go on, play it. I'll respond afterwards.
The one-party rule in your country, where you were president for 4 terms, during which time you promoted the principle of Ujamaa, socialism, and you have acknowledged that it was a miserable failure. What lessons acknowledged that it was a miserable failure? The principle of Ujamaa, socialism, and you have acknowledged that it was a miserable failure. The principle of Ujamaa, socialism, and you have acknowledged that it was a miserable failure. What lessons in retrospect do you draw from that and the kind of economies that African countries might more profitably pursue?
Where did you get the idea that I thought Ujamaa was a miserable failure?
Well, I've read that you said socialism was a failure. The country economically was in shambles at the end of the experiment.
A bunch of countries were in economic shambles at the end of the 70s. They were not socialist. Now, today, it needs so much courage to talk about socialism. Therefore, perhaps we should change the phraseology. But you have to take in the values of socialism which we were trying to build in Tanzania, in any society.
And those values are what?
And those values are values of justice, a respect for human beings, development which is people-centered, development where you care about people. You can say, leave the development of a country to something called the market, which has no heart at all. Since capitalism is completely ruthless, who is going to help the poor? And the majority of the people in our countries are poor. Who is going to stand for them? Not the market. So I'm not regretting that I tried to build a country based on those principles. You will have to, whether you call them socialism or not. Do you realize that what gave capitalism a human face was the kind of values I was trying to sell in my country.
So what's the answer? Because with all due respect, the economy of Tanzania did not thrive under the socialism that you practice. So what do you see as the answer for African countries which are still predominantly poor?
The problem is not a question of socialism. We have to deal with the problem of poverty. You have to deal with the problem of poverty in your country, and your country is not socialist. Or we're in trouble. People in rich countries don't realize the responsibility.
So I don't know. I think you just proved my point there. So I don't think I need to say anything more on that as far as whether he said it or not. That video certainly did not prove your argument, and in fact proved mine. And so to get back to what I was actually saying, we have to ask the question about what was the state of Tanzania when Nyerere became its president. Were they coming into a situation of an abundance of wealth that was squandered in the midst of the Ujamaa program? Is that what we're talking about here, to say that the country collapsed? Did the country in fact collapse, or did it just experience an economic decline relative to where it began or where it had developed to at a certain point during the journey of Ujamaa? And was Nyerere, and he made a point that I was actually going to make, which is the fact that the 70s were an economically challenging time for almost every country on the planet Earth, save for a few who were at the helm of a global economic system. We say, for example, a statement was made earlier concerning the lack of validity to the argument of economic sanctions on a nation, and the role that plays, and the idea that other nations were willing to trade. But then again, like, if we understand how global trade works, especially since the period in question that we're talking about, the 1970s, we would understand that global trade is conducted in the American dollar. So if the American nation state puts sanctions on a nation, economic sanctions, trade sanctions on a nation, that severely affects that nation's ability to trade on the international market. Why? Because international trade is conducted in the American currency, not just when you are trading with America or when you are trading with any other nation. Yes, and that has been a reality almost exclusively for the past 50 years up until very, very recently. So the point I'm making is we have to have more substance and analysis in conversations like these. Otherwise, we're not serving our people well. And when this becomes an argument in just random regurgitations of statements that don't have any substance or foundation in reality, and we're not engaging in any intelligent conversation.
All right, go ahead, Cosmic. Mute yourself, Cosmic.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yeah, okay. So this is my own ethos when it comes to this conversation about Marxism, socialism, communism, and all that, this rubbish. Look when it comes to economics, it's grounded on space and what you have within that space. Right? And that space is going to determine your wants and your needs. So therefore, your economics and your politics should be derived from that state or what is also in your neighboring perspective. So what is socialism? Okay, how can Europe define for you socialism when they have no resources, right? They had feudalism, they are morally and ethically bankrupt. I mean, what kind of socialism does this system of people who come from a square ground of a country or a landmass that produce nothing, a culture that produces nothing, right? So you cannot call free education socialism. It's a human right, because the reason why you have a brain is to accumulate knowledge, is to accumulate things and disperse things and put things into place. Right, so there are some form of education that in human society, every person is entitled to if you're interested in. Would you call that socialism? No, I'm not going to call that socialism. That's just a basic human right. Should every person be entitled to clean water and clean energy, free internet in today's world? Yeah, it's a basic human right. You need that. I'm not going to call that socialism, right? But when you're looking at the system from the perspective of a psyche or of a mind that comes from scarcity, then free education is socialism, right? Clean water and the basic human needs is socialism. So we as Africans have to understand that to create the system that we want, we have to look at the landmass that we come from, right? So I am Nigerian. Okay, what should my economics be based on? Right? I have agriculture, I have tin, I have some uranium, I have a lot of gas, I have a lot of petroleum. So which means that I can afford to have free education. I can afford to give things that maybe someone in Europe should not be able to afford. So the point I'm trying to make here is that disperse of this word socialism, communism, Marxism. By the way, what's the name of that dude of Max Leonard, whatever his name is? The dude never had a job, but yet he's trying to tell you about employer relationship. Dude came from a rich family, he never had a job. So Africans must just go into their own system, and it's easy for us to find this. How did Songhai Empire run its system? How did the ancient Ghana Empire run the system? How did Canon Bonum run its system? What moral and ethical obligation did the ancient African man add to himself and his people around him? So that's just what I'm going to say about this topic. So all this Marxism, communism is just coming from a scarcity mindset. Human rights, your human right. You don't debate human rights. You don't debate human needs. You brought nothing into this world. You're not gonna take anything take anything out of it. That's all. Thank you.
I think human right is a statement that people make when in reality it's just human standards. Human right is not natural based. Nature based. It's about survival. It's always been about power. And when we say people are from environments of scarcity, nature inflicts scarcity to enforce competition. There is no use of an antelope pleading mercy with a lion that wants to feed. You as a people have to recognize that. Hence why we are where we are today. We try. I don't know where we got this idea from that we're like docile people. We're not that docile before. I don't know. We like to think that we are just holding hands and singing. No, that's not what we were. We're just unfortunate that we were not engaging in first world conflict and geopolitics at the time when the British arrived in sub-Saharan Africa and they took advantage of us. So we can't say because we fell for it then, we should not learn from it. We should learn from it, knowing what we know now. You can't, the world you're dealing with now is a dog-eat-dog world. You have to be competing at the highest level. And then you can afford to become whatever you want to become. Then I think somebody said that if you want to be a kind of nice man or something like that, you have to be a lion first or something. You have to be something ferocious. After you achieve power, then you can transform to whatever else you want to transform to. You can be benevolent, you can be a benevolent dictator, a benevolent superpower, whatever you want to do. But you have to seek power first before you can shape the world to your own. Whatever you want to call, and also to say that the Europeans never produced anything. My goodness, how can we say that? Europeans, they during that period, they created the cannon, Gatling gun, and all the rest. That's what they used to conquer the whole world. They created the Enlightenment system.
Yes, let me interject real quick. Well, for them to survive, right, based on the scarcity that they have culturally and ethically and morally, that's why they created the Gatling gun. Because their brain, in order for them to survive, that's the only context they can put things: war and robbery. Because if you look at the history of Europe, it's nothing but war and robbery.
That's nature itself.
Well. See, you are going to impress upon nature what nature impress on you. So if nature puts you in a dry, barren land, then your attitude and your behavior is going to be changed by your ecological circumstances. So God, or whatever you want to call him, put African man in a place whereby there's abundance. So there's no need for him to be in constant war like the European. So scarcity for the African man will be different from the scarcity of a European man. So if you want to look at things from a point of scarcity, right, for the African man, it would have to be something different.
Yeah, but because God put you in a place of abundance, He didn't put Europeans in a place of abundance. In other words, you are the spoiled kid, and you refuse to learn that
Exactly.
other people have scarcity, and you
Right.
have to respond accordingly. Otherwise, they will
Right.
take everything you've got, like they've done.
Right. And I'm not going to disagree with that. And I guess that's where we're at right now. Because again, because of that abundance, we are the spoiled kid. We did not see what was going on around us. We did not. And remember, I mean, I think you sound like a Yoruba person. If you remember the Kiriji War in Yoruba, that 16-year-long war, right?
Yeah.
I could imagine the Europeans who were around that area, how they were planning, like, and the Yorubas who were fighting that 16-year-long war, buying all the weapons and the gunpowder from there, they don't even see them. Right? So imagine you finishing a 16-year-long war just to meet the European soldiers right at your gate telling you that give me all your shit. You tired.
What they didn't know that the Europeans, when they had the Berlin Conference, declared war on all black Africans. They declared war on all of us.
And the Catholic Church too.
We are still fighting each other. And today, and in a way, we are still doing it today.
So tonight,
war on us, and we don't even recognize it.
So tonight, let's do this. The initial spark that built the capital for the United States came from the labor and industries that they abused from Black Americans and other people. It came from that. Even with the empires, it came from that. So they said to those who have advantage, more should be given. So you, in a state where somebody has advantage all over you, or all over your vicinity, it controls how you trade globally and everything. How are you advocating for something that further disadvantages you?
That's the reason why I said capitalism has advantages, because if the system is corrupted, individuals have the ability to resist it because they have their own individual interests at hand. Because we as a collective intelligence is relatively low, but individuals, if you look at within our culture, individuals can be extremely intelligent and resilient.
Yes.
So, and in a way, that's what the Western society uses. They have been corrupt for a very, very long time, but yet look at how powerful they still are, because they decided to put capital and power in the hands of a fewer compared to the large population, fewer people.
Yes, I agree with you that yes, you do need to free people. You do need to free people to be able to, especially in a place where the government is bottleneck and is slowed down. That's when you need that impetus. You need the individuals to kind of chart the way forward and all that stuff. But at the same time, when you give them too much freedom, it then creates its own Ouroboros, that corruption aspect where you go to crony capitalism. So that's why the socialism aspect, that strong government comes to kind of manage and balance. It's all a balancing act. Even in the UK, let's say to Niger, would you prefer the private medical system that the United States has, or replacing it over the NHS that the UK has? Would you prefer us to adapt that way completely?
I think the best systems is where you have an element of socialist system versus the capitalist. Let's face it, almost every state is socialist. The military is socialist.
Two things can be right at the same time.
Socialist system, yes.
Two things can be right at the same time.
All right, no problem. We are the initial spark is you need capital. You definitely need capital, but then again, you need that capital to be redistributed to kind of keep the economy, the system running. You need people to be buying. Otherwise, you can't be just taking. I
don't think you can.
Hold on. You can't be just taking away, taking from people. But what I'm trying to say to Niger,
I agree with you on that.
For Africa, the situation we were in, for the situation we were in, as opposed to China, what leverage did we have back then to actually negotiate on a playing field with these people to just say, yes, to do us technology transfer, do us that? When we were just fragmented into little nation states, they don't even pay the tax when they come to do business. They don't even pay. The Chinese could compel them. So you see, from a socialist point of view, you are able to build a strong government. And from an operational point of view, it was wise that you should ally yourself with, even if you don't agree with them ideologically, you should ally yourself with them temporarily to strengthen yourself as a government.
Again, socialist governments were not designed to be strong. As a matter of fact, that's why Lenin said he wasn't going to follow the doctrine of Karl Marx, because he felt that if they follow it, it would be too slow. The progress is too slow, and they're going to be too weak. So they deliberately became authoritarian, because they felt that if they would move slowly, the Western Europeans would defeat them, and they will become slaves. So
Can I add something quickly? Can I add
Go.
something quickly? Regarding these capitalist companies that come to Africa, they refuse to pay taxes to our governments. They want to get our resources for pennies on a dollar, literally for free. Sometimes they want to steal it. So even their own rules of capitalism, they don't play by those rules in Africa. They
Right.
rather come and put a fake puppet, then take our result. They don't even want to play capitalism fair with us. Come on now.
And I guess this is where, again, if you look at what happened in Burkina Faso yesterday, right? And this is what Africa needs to do. There was another coup attempt that happened in Burkina Faso yesterday or 2 days ago. And what did the citizens of Burkina Faso did? All of them came out. They came out to let you know, no, you're not going to take this leader because they understand what is at stake. So again, you see, call it whatever you want to call it. We got to put things in the context of Africa and what development means for Africa. What does development means for us? What connects us and what makes us
I
different?
think Africans need to create some large conglomerates, billionaires that own key sectors. And in Nigeria, I would recommend we create even like 10 to 20 Dangotes. Because if you have that, what is going to happen is that you're going to have the nation have some powerful institutions and industries that will enable us to industrialize.
Yeah, so
you are aware when China was opening up, as you say, because they were poor back then and they didn't have the initial spark of capital and wealth, and they realized they needed that. So when they were opening up, they didn't just open up everything entirely. They did it measuredly.
But don't forget they closed up first.
Hold on. They opened up special trading zones to do this experiment, this capitalist experiment. You see what I mean? But at the same time, they had geopolitical leverage, they had demographic leverage, they had that, so they had a stronger negotiating point. What we're saying is Africa, our states are so small, so fragmented, so insignificant that like it's going to be tough for us to have any leverage.
We had leverage, we just didn't have the
Look
mind
at what leverage did we have? What leverage did we have?
See, the leverage you have is the power you are willing to wield. Like if you look at the Japanese now, did they have leverage against the West after they lost? But
hold on, though.
Knew that if they didn't work with them.
But hold on. But see, everybody talks about Japan. Hold on, everybody talks about Japan, but nobody actually mentioned that the Rothschild and the Rockefellers actually invested in Japan to rebuild Japan. So it's not like the Japanese did this by themselves.
Yeah, but
the Rockefellers invested in.
Ask yourself, why did they feel that the Japanese are worthy while Africans are
because guess what? They did not. Why would you want Africans to be industrialized? Why would you want Africans to be industrialized?
African. We have racism as well.
You get what I'm saying?
They were racist against the Japanese after the First World War. The Japanese was their ally.
There's levels of racism. There's levels of racism. Europeans prefer Asians to Africans. Come, let's not pretend.
I'm not so sure, actually. See,
let's not go there. I want to.
A Black American can talk on this. A Black American should be the one to talk on this because they can tell you better.
I want to explore this leverage that small African states
guys,
have.
let me read these super chats real quick, and then to Brother Sakura, I played the wrong video, and I did, but that video did prove your point. But I'm gonna find a video where Nari actually says that socialism was a mistake. Here we go. I'm sure the sanctions on them have no effect. Mr. Sandman, thank you for 99 holla. The three major tenets of Taoism is compassion, frugality, and humility. The Chinese don't spend all their money on Cadillacs and fur coats. That's their key to success. I disagree with that. When I was working in LA, Chinese tourists used to come to bus loads to Hollywood Boulevard, and they would be all up in a Louis Vuitton store and Prada and buying all that stuff. So I disagree.
Right.
Jay, thank you for $1 holla. You not naming countries like Norway and Sweden. Norway and Sweden aren't socialist countries.
I just want to say I'm not against capitalism per se, because I recognize it as you need initial spark of wealth, and then you need something to sustain that wealth, to maintain that wealth, and that's where the levers of socialism comes in to kind of rein in this thing as well. You understand what I mean? So I'm not against capitalism in a way, but I just wanted to discuss this point with Tunaja and everybody. Like, what leverage did small African states that were resource wealthy have that they could have negotiated against bigger companies? Even today, Tunaja, these big companies are still not paying tax. It's only now that you have in Burkina Faso, in Mali, and all that stuff that you have these leaders now just canceling mining deals and canceling mining contracts and actually wielding that power. But back then, leaders just used to get replaced. Weak governments get replaced like if they don't agree. What leverage do we have?
If you have wealth, if you have power, who do you want to deal with? Do you want to deal with somebody that is weak, that you are not sure when you give them something, you entrust them with something, they will lose it or even hurt themselves with it? No, you wouldn't want to trust them. That's what African leaders and African countries were. We didn't have any way of expressing power. We couldn't anyway, because most of the people that were governing our country were collaborators. They were educated by the British. They didn't fight for anything.
Anglicized. They were anglicized.
Not just anglicized. They didn't have the capacity to leverage that, to look the Europeans in the face and say, "I'm equal to you," and because whatever, if you test me, you are going to find out.
There's repercussion.
Have that capacity, yes.
In that type of world,
which is what the AES is building right now.
Hold on. So Tunaja, in that type of world where you didn't have that leverage, that power, you didn't have that power to express your independence, your sovereignty, why would you advocate for a system that says, okay, fine, we'll open up to this thing, but we don't have any power, but we'll open up ourselves to them as well? You're opening yourself to be raped completely.
You're basically describing a fait accompli situation. No matter what we did then, because of the mindset of our people, we're not capable of competing. But while the Chinese, do you think that after the war, the Chinese immediately went nuclear? The Japanese, the Indians, they were all they're competing with the West.
But doesn't that indicate strong government? Doesn't that indicate strong government? The Chinese have always been authoritarian. It indicates strong government. They've adopted communism. So you have to be strong internally. You have to be strong security-wise as well, in order for you to be able to deal with them and have leverage to negotiate with them, so that you can get some gains from dealing in this capitalism with them.
How do you get strong? And I think the Chinese
by having a military that is able to take them on.
AES, look at AES is already showing us the way. AES always gives us the solution, which is collaboration, military might, and take back all your natural resources. Look what Mali did today to Barigo.
Did China become militarily strong through capitalism?
Was
it capitalism that made them?
They were communists when they went nuclear. Yeah, they were.
So they had strong government,
they had a very strong government then. Yes,
and a military to back it up, and they didn't need capitalism to do that.
What was the first thing China did?
The Japanese came and killed 37 million Chinese, and they were fighting them in a bitter conflict. And after that conflict ended, you can see that even the Chinese were like, "We will never let this happen again." So that
when the Japanese did that to them, that's when the Chinese were actually democratic. The Chinese were democratic capitalists. The government that got kicked back to Taiwan. The Chinese were like that. They didn't adopt this communism that made them strong. So we build nuclear weapons, we build security. They didn't adopt it. This came. So when I say strong government, I'm not just saying a strong government doesn't mean that you have strong institutions. You have actual strong hard power, strong military power.
I actually think that either the communists or the capitalist ones that went to Taiwan, any of them, whichever one had won that war, then China will still be here today, because the mind of the people had changed from the years of humiliation that they went through.
Okay, but nobody is talking about. Hold on.
I recognize that.
Hold on. Can I say something? Nobody is saying the first move China made. The first thing they did was they closed out everything. They closed China. Nobody coming in, nobody going out. They indoctrinated their own people. They did all the things necessary that needed to be done before they opened back China. And by the time they opened back China, guess what? They were capitalists. They were capitalists with a mission, because now they understood what happened. They understood the history of what happened, how it happened, where was their own faults, where's the world going, where should they be at. So the first thing they first did was what? Self-preservation.
And they got rid of all the traders and collaborators as well.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
That's for sure. They went through hell. They said there was a time the Chinese, they were trading using trade by barter. That's how much the West blockaded them. At least Maduro was able to sell crude oil to the Chinese. The Chinese didn't have the chance. They were blocking them every.
So my thing is, if we are going to become capitalists, from which point of view and situation can we be measured? When do we realize our situation and we say, okay, this is when capitalism is kind of advantageous to us, and this is when to be more socialist. How can we be measured to that? Because it's not a call like we follow the popular narrative and say, yeah, let's just be capitalist. How can you be capitalist when you don't have the advantage at all? It's completely
I think
ridiculous.
the reason why I think capitalism works in our own context now is because it's a little bit more resilient to a systemic corruption. Because it's individual based. If you have a company, even if you are working in a company that is corrupt, you still want your company to succeed. So you would not want anybody to want to cheat you. So you have a need to want to make that company succeed and innovate and all the rest of it.
Not all capital. It's not all capital because, like you see, there's a fine line there. If the Chinese model is yes, let's be capitalist, but internally let's control it. State control capitalism internally. So they allow their own business. Hold on, state control. They allow their own business people to grow from their own population and allow that. So they did the capitalism internally, but externally it was
no. Capitalism is a form of nationalism. Actually,
here we have companies in the UK that are very socialist. They allow workers to own the company, like John Lewis, and people are more happy there. The workers get paid more money because actually the workers are more excited to work for a company that they own. You know, they have any. So when you say one individual owns the company, that's not right. There is organization where the workers own the company, so they work even harder as a collective. So the company makes more money.
I hear what you are saying, but in the real world, this is why you have Tesco, Waitrose being
John Lewis does really well. The cooperative does really well.
No,
That's
I
what
understand, but you always be second place to people that are cutthroat. Because this world is cutthroat, and I really think before you are nice, you have to win the struggle first before you worry about being nice. Like the West now, when they win the struggle, then they instituted socialist system to free healthcare, free education. Many European countries have free education. It's only UK that they started becoming more capitalist like America and having people pay for tuition fees and all the rest.
Do you believe there's actually a true free market capitalism in the world? Around the world.
See, you cannot have.
It's impossible. It's impossible.
Hold on. I think otherwise. You can only have free market if you have the land, you have the tools, and you have the labor. If you don't have these three things, then you cannot have a free market.
So there's always a level of there's always a level of control, even in terms of protecting your own industries. Like look at what the EU is doing now. The Chinese are the ones producing those electronic vehicles.
Farming subsidies in Europe. That is not real capitalism.
Look at how Europe and the United States are protecting their own markets, and they tell us free market capitalism.
Their own farmers, exactly.
Look at the railroads. Let me tell you another one to Niger. The railroads in the United States, right? The United States would have built railroads all across the country, but those oil companies and car companies didn't want to lose out. So the corruption that happened in that level of capitalism, you see what I'm saying? So people monopolize.
I don't think there's anything like free market. It's just a form of system where they describe as competition for everybody. But in reality, there's nothing like that because you see that the government favors certain industries over others. They support other companies. Sometimes they even support monopolies, like water companies in the UK. It's only one company that controls water in the UK. So you can see that when people say free market, you have to take it with a pinch of salt. It's just a principle, but in the real terms, they actually control. It's a form of controlled capitalism or productions, a means of production.
There's no true capitalism. If you want to be wealthy and you don't want to be superseded or subverted, you have to have control, and that's why socialism measures comes in. So they both work hand in hand. Tonight, I tell you, I look at it. They work hand in hand. You need socialism to check.
There's got to be check and balances.
I think the problem with socialism is that the political part contaminated because if socialism embrace democratic systems, as a matter of fact, let's say it's a totally socialist system embrace a kind of democratic system like the direct democratic system of Switzerland, you would have had a different story today. But it's because of the circumstances that Lenin and Stalin decided that, you know what, we are not going to wait. These guys are going to finish us off if we start doing this soft socialism that is representative. We have to go nuclear and go.
But the democratic system is even more bureaucratical and even more so because, like, let's say you are dealing in a world where you're competing with everybody else and all that stuff. So everybody now has a say in this strong government kind of government system, and then you have democracy there. it's a complete slowdown. If China did that, they will never be there because everybody has to have an opinion. So China just went one party, no democratic, one party state, and one party charts the path for everybody else. You see what I'm saying?
I think if there's something we want to take away from here is that socialist system doesn't mean dictatorship. I think everybody assumes if you have a socialist system, it has to be there's an authoritarian center. You can be socialist and a highly democratic. It's just that we haven't seen such a system.
That's because
hold on, what but I think the problem, Tunaj, there's not too many examples of socialist systems that aren't led by
Democrats,
democratic, institutions. Yeah,
that's
they're all
but what
that's
system
because
was
it's
the
easier
Yorubas
to
using, for
implement
example?
capitalism in this current climate. That's what it like. It's not it does these instances don't occur in a vacuum. That's what's being left out.
Yes, exactly.
It's not. No, just when it's easier to capitulate to capitalism, you're going to get the path of least resistance. That's why most countries implement it. Why socialism and quote unquote communism gets a bad rap is because of Russia.
Yeah. Let me put
hold
this
on, guy. I want to pass the mic. We got some new people on the panel.
I just got one more thing.
Hold on. Go ahead, Jagoon.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you very much, and good evening, everybody. The best of the new year to you all. We wish you well. I must say, I've come on because I've liked the way the communication is going. I don't have a lot to say. All I do have to say, really, is that I don't have a lot to say at this point. I would like to chime in when something sufficient comes up. I would just like to say that my view of the first week of a brand new year is that it's already been a hell of a year. And we all better be paying strict attention to what's going on. I think things are unfolding before our very eyes in terms of what it is the future is going to bring. And we as a collective have a choice to make on all these things that are taking place right now. I really doff my cap to all people on the panel at the moment. I've enjoyed what you are saying, and I think chiming in too. I would like to end there for this moment and allow the next person to continue. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, T.
Yeah, man. I'm just responding to the question. Why are Black people so infatuated with socialism and dictatorship? I just think it's the need to want to just be taken care of by the government, and it shows, especially in the United States. Look, 90% of Black people vote for who? Democrats. Why? Because Democrats offer all these welfare systems to Black people, and instead of us wanting to build our own, go out there and get it, conquer. We like to go to the white man and say, why can't you take care of us? Where's all the programs to feed us? How can you help us? Why don't you hire us? Why don't you take us into your community? All this whiny stuff. So, it explains why Black people are socialists, because they want to be taken care of. They don't want to take destiny into their own hands. And also, there's just I don't see any successful socialist country around the world. Maybe China. I think China's socialist, but the problem with China is that the majority of the population is poor, and people flee socialist country. No one flees into a socialist country. People flee from socialist countries into capitalist countries, and then complain about the capitalist society. Well, then take your butt back to your socialist country. Where
people come to capitalist countries
where there ain't
because
no
they have
food
stolen all
there,
the wealth.
and you're over there starving. And and this is what people of color see. Here's the problem I have with, and why do white people know how to use resources in quote
Resources
unquote
that's not
brown
there, it's
people and
stolen.
people of color countries better than the people of color themselves? Why does it take a white man to come over there and say, all right, I'm gonna show y'all how to make money
All right.
from y'all's
No, it's not
own
sure.
resources
No, it's I'm gonna
and build
steal
this
your
oil
stuff.
company?
It's
That's
I'm gonna
bullshit.
steal your
That's
stuff.
That's the
bullshit.
major problem. It's gonna happen in Venezuela. We about to show them Venezuelans how to make money using our own resources. That's the problem.
Man,
No, the
thief is a
resources
thief,
belong to
man. A thief is a
Venezuela.
thief.
Makes us too needy.
If they do not know how to use it, why did they have it in the first place? If they were not going to use it, why did they have it in the first place?
Anyways, let's not degenerate the conversation. So
Exactly.
Generating conversation. Ain't no successful socialist country. That's why y'all flee it. Don't flee. Stay there.
Be patient. Be patient. Maybe through the conversation, you will have an answer, maybe from someone else regarding that question that you have. Let's be patient. Tonight, I just want to say one thing. Because socialism represents like control, regulation, control, and all that stuff. Because it represents that, and democracy represents like the everybody to have a say as well. When you combine these two things, democratic socialism, let's say democracy is not ideal when you are in a state of war and in a state of chaos or in a state of scarcity. You need one person to chart the course. You need an authority to chart the course. Just like when the wartime comes, that's why they have emergency powers when it comes to war. The government takes. That's why Donald Trump can do exclusive powers, exclusive emergency powers. So you need one person. So many people in the world have to realize you cannot do democracy. You cannot do democratic socialism because it's going to be very slow because it's over regulation and it's democratical. That for African countries will not work because we are in a state of war. You need complete strength and complete government. You need emergency powers when
sovereignty. We need sovereignty.
I think it's because we haven't necessarily seen the most muscular democratic system manifested in a large nation. Because if you look at the Swiss system, they came together with it in 18 something, and that system is so stable because they have 7 presidents, and they all govern.
People are not in a chaotic state.
Let me explain what I'm saying, because you are talking about the ability to respond to adversity and all the rest. These guys created a nation within 40 to 50 years. They built so much infrastructure. They are the only country in the world today. If they are at war, they have bunkers enough for all their citizens to go under. They are the only nation that did that. They've not fought a war for over 200 years, and they have the most advanced democratic system. So you can see, we have not really seen the most advanced democratic system operating in a big nation. And generally, they are more stable. We just think that human beings don't know that when the war is happening, if people feel that they have a stake in that country, they will defend it. And
you can only have a stake in a country if there is socialism. I'm not going to defend a capitalist country that's making me broken, Paul. Come on.
Why do black people want to be socialist when there isn't an example of a properly ran socialist country?
There's socialist countries all over Europe. They're called social democrats.
I think all they just want to have access to amenities. I think the black people just want access to amenities. But they think that socialism will give them that.
I want to interject. Let me interject.
Listen to this. Tunaja, in times of war, democracy gets kind of put in the back seat. You know what I mean?
Right.
But in times of peace and plenty, then you want to extend democracy to other people and be like democracy.
Right.
I don't subscribe to that. Why should democracy go to the back? If you are fighting the war, democracy is still there, but the democratic system will just create the environment for the war to be fought. I don't understand.
Democracy is about majority rule. If the majority rule the company, that's democracy, isn't it? Democracy is about the majority.
Not necessarily, though.
And
it's
if
not
we own the
necessarily
company,
about
that's the
majority
majority. The workers are the majority in any company, not the director.
Yeah, but I'm saying in essence, the democracy is not necessarily majority rule.
Well, let me. This is what I think, right? Because in order for you to create the perfect society, it's got to be a tapestry of things. It's got to be a tapestry of socialism, communism, and whatnot. We got to decide what things. For example, okay, free education. Sure, you're going to get free education from nursery school to grade 12. If you want to go to technical college or university, you're going to have to bring some money out of your pocket. Cool. There's not going to be free apartments. If you want free apartments, you're going to have to go get a job, right? That's capitalism.
Housing is a human right, though.
Exactly. Water should not be, you got to be paying water and what is your bill is increased. No, that is human rights. That's socialism. You put that under socialism. We're not going to argue about that. Okay, let's talk about industries and things like that. That will fall into capitalism. So we have to decide what things are going to fall into socialism, whereby
But
it's not
but
arguable.
but the government giving me free education is not socialism. The government has a responsibility to provide education, housing, roads. That's infrastructure. While the business people can run business, but I want the government to do government things like give us free healthcare and education.
Listen, the government doesn't
You
really
ain't
have
gonna
to
get no
provide
free
it.
healthcare in you
Look,
invading every country around the
nobody,
world.
exactly.
Because in America,
Listen, the fact is, the fact is, wildflower. Just really and truly, in this world, you like Tunaja says, you cannot outsource your security to somebody else. Nobody owes you a living. So you understand what I mean? But the fact is, if they don't redistribute that wealth back to you or make sure that society works, you will not be able to buy anything from them, and they will lose out in the end. So they deplete. It's like an Ouroboros, it eats itself. So
But
they
as a
need to redistribute for the help of the nation.
as a community, we're meant to take care of each other.
Exactly.
So we help each other.
Well,
This
guess what?
individualistic mindset is very Europeanish. That nobody owes you anything. We're meant to
we gotta
take
move
care of
forward.
one another.
But that's why the
That's a
European
harmonious
man is so
world.
ambitious, because he's not giving anything
Thank you.
for free.
Thank
He
you.
has to
Thank
work
you.
for it. That's why he's so
Exactly.
ambitious.
You homeless, guess what? You homeless, we're gonna give you free house for 6 months or 1 year, and you go get your ass together. After 1 year, you ain't got no job, you getting kicked out. That's
But-
socialism
but
and
it's up to
capitalism.
it's up to the
Exactly.
government to
That's
get
why the
jobs.
European man is out here conquering everything.
But in
government
terms
creates
of
jobs.
Because he
productivity and
ain't getting no free
ambition,
house.
in terms of productivity and ambition, making that tied to quote unquote capitalism, that's just childish. In regards to government, the reason why governments are formed are because of social contract. If a society comes together and says that they want these standards and formulate a government around it, that is the function of government. Therefore, any system that's created out there is going to reflect the wants of the desires of the people. If a group of people want to enact socialist quote unquote mores and communist quote unquote mores or capitalist quote unquote mores, that's up to them. It has to be agreed upon with the people. Now, the thing that gets lost in these conversations, people are ascribing inherent positives and negatives within these systems. Like I said earlier, these systems are these systems. The problem is the people implementing them. The essence that I'm seeing, the common theme that I'm seeing within the conversation is that it's about balance. You take the positives with this system, you take the positives with this system, you take out the negatives with this system, and you take out the negatives with this system. People need to stop getting caught up in this emotional ism and schism stuff.
But brother, that
Exactly.
makes no sense, because you can look at the data. The most powerful countries in the world are capitalists.
Well, the
Like
most
the West
powerful
is
country in the
running the
world.
entire world.
The data is
You can
skewed.
say
The data
we
is
can be opposed
skewed.
or whatever,
The
but
data is
look at
skewed.
the facts on the ground.
But the most
The
powerful
data is
country in the world
skewed.
is
It
also
doesn't operate
racist.
in a vacuum. This be my problem with you.
But the most powerful country in the world is also racist.
What you pro American leaning people, bro? Y'all espouse these run of the mill propaganda's narratives.
I gotta be
The
pro-American.
data is skewed.
America had free labor.
My whole family's
America
here,
had free
brother.
labor for 400 years.
I'm not.
America had free labor for 400 years. You get what I'm saying? So you can't compare America to other countries. If the white man was
They're
so
going
smart,
around. They going around.
You got a pro-American accent, bro.
Hold on. If the white man,
you come from Harlem or something,
bro. Hold on. If the white man was so smart and so strong, why couldn't he pick the cotton himself? Why couldn't the strong man of Europe of white descent do all this shit for 400 years? Right? He couldn't do it, so he had to enslave you to be able to build this thing. And because he hates you and he doesn't want you to have anything, he creates this capitalism, which is just pure capitalism. There's no reason why anything, socialism, communism, capitalism, should be pure that. It should be half this, quarter that, quarter this, quarter that. Where it makes sense, you take it in. Where it doesn't make sense, you take it out. Like I said earlier, if you you ain't got no job, you need a housing. Sure. The social contract is we have to look. The social contract is we have to look after you. So we're going to give you a free house for 1 year, and we expect you under that 1 year for you to get a job. Sure, we want to assist you to go get a job so you can be productive. That's the way it should be done. After 1 year, you go get a job. You can't do anything. You get out. There's something we can do for you.
This narrative that people
guys, can I come in here real quick?
That's how you make human beings hustle, man.
Okay, can I come in here real quick, if I may, guys? I'm listening, and I'm still catching on to how this conversation is going. I applaud the manners and respects that everybody seems to be giving each other. Having said this, when looking at the question at hand on socialism versus capitalism, the gentlemen and ladies who have been speaking of more a tapestry of our politics that is needed for Africans to both rise and be players on the table. Right now, we have to accept that the way we're playing the game as the African leaders, especially, and then those who fall into other black diaspora all around the world, we are just the same as they are, maybe at a lesser or greater expanse. I don't know. But I believe that whatever it is that we are going to do has to be African centered. It's the only way that we are going to find any agreement at all to launch ourselves forward. There is something, as we all know, called Ubuntu. Now, this may be labored. It may be in the past. It may be something that we is it politics at all that we think. But you see, the politics of I am because we are, I think is very, very powerful. And where does it fall? Does it fall into capitalism or does it fall into socialism?
Socialism.
Well, you
Okay.
know what? They say that, but it is further because there's Ubuntu.
Right.
The trade in itself that we conduct is Ubuntu, is the thing that we do as what people may say is capitalist, but it is also social in that
Right.
it makes
Because Ubuntu
wait.
encompasses both.
Well, this is what I'm saying. It makes the community arise. It takes care of itself through its what? Through its endeavors and through its finances. It's always been the way. So we have to look very carefully. I've got a picture in my mind about what Africa can be and what black people can be in this world, what we're supposed to be. However, I don't know. I don't know it any more of an experiment of my own mind. I don't know how, if I was to speak it now, which I will not, whether
I
or
wanna
not I'll find agreement or discernment. I'm not sure. But what
I
I
wanna
am saying, if we don't really look away from if we don't look at what's happened in history, in the world's history, as something to listen, because both are bad and both have been proven well to do. If we don't really pay attention to the experiments that are taking place all around our minds, in not actually thinking and doing the critical thinking of what it is to be African in this world today, no matter your depletion from being African or what it is to be a black person. And therefore, what it is, what kind of politics do we need to play in order to be game changers? And I would like to end there and see if this moves our conversation forward. Thank you.
But do you
That's
think
a great point,
socialism would
brother.
help? Do you think relying on the government would help?
That's
No,
not what he
no,
said
no,
at
no.
all. He
Let us
didn't
ask.
say
Let
that.
him ask that question again. The question is, what do we have to be in this modern world as Africans? That is the greatest question in this fucking panel right now. In
I,
2026,
He's
what
the
do we
whole benefit of
Africans
it.
need to be? What context? What perspective do we have to see this world
I
from?
think I think Tenga BC has it right that both systems are necessary, and it's a case of a balanced case. But also, it's about realizing when you should use a certain system and when to use. It's like you have to measure when you should use, how much you should use which system. It's about the balance. It's not just one system. I just want to point out to my guy.
My heart.
I just want to point out to my guy, one of the tools that capitalist class created for control is racism. Because capitalism is a means of controlling scarcity. You get to decide who gets to have what, who gets to not have what. So one of the tools they created is racism. And my question to racism for control, I want to ask to Niger, are African countries more capitalist today or more socialist today? And or looking back in the past and today, are we more capitalist today or socialist today? It's up to you to
We
answer.
are clearly more capitalist today.
And how has that done us?
It has not served us well because the fundamental problem has nothing to do with our political system or our economic system. It has something to do with our threat assessment awareness, and we don't have that consciousness as a people because we've never been put through the reasons why we should have it. People forget that the way history unfolds affects the way your consciousness. because the people they were handed over to didn't have the consciousness to defend themselves. How do you fight the British when they just handed the power over to you? They gave you the key to rule the country. How do you fight them? It's almost impossible. And maybe we're destined to experience what we are experiencing now. Maybe if Trump, goes and does something stupid on the continent, it will wake us up, and maybe our people will decide that, we don't want to get. An example is what is happening in Venezuela right now. At first, let me just finish what I'm saying. Let me finish quickly. When they removed Maduro at first, a lot of people were, happy about it. But when Trump came on the TV and started talking about how they will control Venezuela oil and all the rest, many Venezuelans started, thinking twice again and thinking, okay, this is not nice. You see what I mean? If you start waking people up, then they start becoming more nationalists and they want to defend their own interests, and that is the kind of stuff you need on the continent. But on a quick one, the Europeans, one thing I noticed is that when it comes to Ubuntu, they practice it on the macro level. That's the main reason why they actually win. They come together on a larger level to defeat other groups. I've never seen the people that unite when they really need to unite. Like the Berlin Conference is an example of that. NATO is another example of that. European Union is another example of that. You can, so many systems that they put in place to come together. What we are seeing in AES is just a micro level of what Europeans have achieved a long time ago.
Right. You understand?
Guy, we got to close out, man. Sorry to end it abruptly, but everyone, thanks so much for joining. Like, share, subscribe. Until next time, family. Dynasty Amir, search for Huru. Peace.
Danful offers unparalleled, curated, and bespoke tours across Africa for travelers seeking genuine cultural experiences, enriched with magnificent sights, sounds, and flavors found on the continent.
Okay, hold on there. So the
Each
advert goes.
trip is reliably curated to ensure visitors are gifted with an immersive and authentic adventure. Whether you find yourself strolling along the charming white sand beaches of Sierra Leone, feasting on the mouth-watering delicious foods in Senegal, observing or partaking in various aspects of the Isheshi traditional system Ifa native to Yorubaland, Nigeria, with Danful, you will rediscover a fulfilling sense of kinship to the true heart of the motherland, her communities. Our core values focus on integrity, quality, safety, and sustainability. We are uniquely committed to assisting with the advancement of African infrastructure and promoting African businesses, so both travelers and the communities they visit receive beneficial exchanges. At Danful, we understand the importance of connectivity, and we have created a model which provides bespoke experiences based on your passions or hobbies. With us, expect a long-lasting spiritual bond between you and your destinations. Live, love, Danful, Africa. To learn more, visit danful.africa.